Old Hollywood was more than champagne and cameras. It was engines, chrome, and speed. The cars they drove told us who they really were. Every morning, the world's most photographed faces slipped behind the wheel of something extraordinary. These weren't just props for the paparazzi. These were the machines that carried legends through canyon roads at dawn, down Sunset Boulevard at midnight, across state lines when the studio pressure became too much. While the world saw carefully staged glamour shots, these cars lived a real story. Coffee runs, studio gate exits, desert escapes. Some drove European art pieces that cost more than houses. Others chose rugged American monsters with engines that roared louder than their on-screen dialogue. And a few picked shockingly modest rides that didn't match their fame at all. Each choice revealed something the cameras couldn't catch, who they were when the lights went off. From the golden age of the 1930s to the rebellious 1970s, Hollywood's biggest names built relationships with their automobiles that went deeper than ownership. These cars became extensions of personality, symbols of freedom, and sometimes the only private space a star could find. Some of these vehicles are worth millions today. Others disappeared into junkyards decades ago. But every one of them carries a story about fame, identity, and the American road. These are 20 classic Hollywood stars from the golden age of the 1970s, and the cars they loved, lived with, and drove every day. Not the studio gifts they posed with once, not the movie props they never touched, the real machines that knew them better than most people ever would. Let's start the engine. Cary Grant, Mercedes-Benz 300S. Grace and class rolled into chrome and German engineering. Cary Grant didn't just look elegant on screen. He demanded it from everything around him, including his daily driver. While other stars chased horsepower and headlines, Grant chose a Mercedes-Benz 300S, a grand tourer that whispered wealth instead of shouting it. This wasn't the later racing-bred 300SL that everyone knows. This was a 300S, quieter, more refined, built for sophistication rather than speed records. The 300S fit Grant like a Seville rose suit. It had hand-fitted leather, understated curves, and engineering precision that matched his own carefully cultivated image. This was a car for someone who understood the difference between looking rich and being tasteful. Auction houses and market historians list Grant among notable 300S owners, and it makes perfect sense. He drove a machine designed for continental touring, not racetrack heroics. Grant's on-screen persona was all about effortless charm, the kind that never seemed to try too hard. His car choice reflected the same philosophy. No flash, no drama, just impeccable taste on four wheels, gliding through Beverly Hills or up the coast to his weekend retreat. The man made everything look easy, including luxury. Humphrey Bogart, Jaguar XK120. The toughest guy in Hollywood drove a British roadster. Humphrey Bogart played men who saw problems with fists and cigarettes, but off-screen, his escape vehicle was pure elegance, a Jaguar XK120. A famous 1952 photograph by Sid Avery captured Bogart, Lauren Bacall, and their son at home with the sleek open-top roadster. This wasn't method acting. This was how Bogart actually lived. The XK120 was one of the fastest production cars of its era, capable of hitting 120 miles per hour, hence the name. But Bogart didn't just chase speed. He chased freedom. Long coastal drives with Bacall. Desert runs when the Hollywood pressure got too thick. The roadster gave him wind, distance, and something close to privacy. Jaguar's design was all flowing curves and wire wheels, a machine that balanced British refinement with genuine performance. Bogart appreciated both sides. He could play tough guys all week and still slip behind the wheel of something that turned heads for beauty rather than brutality. He didn't need to prove anything to anyone. The car just had to get him out of town fast enough to breathe. Even legends needed an escape route. Claudette Colbert, Lincoln Continental. She didn't just wear luxury. She drove it deliberately. Claudette Colbert built a career playing smart, independent women who knew exactly what they wanted. Off-screen, she made the same kind of choices, practical, glamorous, and entirely on her own terms. Her car was a Lincoln Continental, the mid-century American luxury icon that combined presence with genuine driving pleasure. According to a Vanity Fair profile, Colbert talked about buying a Continental after driving one to Frank Sinatra's place in Palm Springs. She didn't need anyone's approval or a studio gift. She test drove it, liked it, and bought it herself. That was called Bear, ladylike on the surface, fiercely independent underneath. The Lincoln Continental was a thinking person's luxury car. It had clean lines, powerful straight-eight engineering, and a reputation for reliability that matched Colbert's own no-nonsense professionalism. This wasn't a car that screamed for attention. It arrived with quiet confidence and stayed as long as it wanted. Colbert's screen image was all about control and elegance. Her Continental delivered the same message every time she turned the key. Some stars needed to be seen. Colbert just needed to drive. Clark Gable, 1935 Duesenberg Model JN, convertible coupe. The king of Hollywood demanded a king's car. Clark Gable loved speed, power, and freedom, and nothing delivered all three like his 1935 Duesenberg Model JN convertible coupe. This wasn't just any luxury car. This was one of the rarest, most expensive American automobiles ever built, with coachwork by Rolls-Ton and an engine that made lesser cars feel embarrassed. Duesenberg only built a handful of Model JN cars, making them instantly legendary. Gable's JN had a supercharged straight-eight engine that produced over 300 horsepower at a time, when most cars struggled to hit 100. It was excessive, beautiful, and unmistakably American, just like Gable's screen persona. The car's provenance is well documented by reputable automotive press, and it makes perfect sense for Gable. He wasn't interested in subtle. He wanted the biggest engine, the longest hood, and a car that announced his arrival 3 blocks before he got there. The Duesenberg delivered all of that and more. Gable used it as his daily indulgence, a rolling declaration that the king of Hollywood didn't do anything halfway. He drove hard, lived hard, and when he needed to disappear into the desert for a few days, he had the horsepower to get there before anyone could follow. Big engine, bigger legend, that was a Gable way. Buster Keaton, 1929 Lincoln Model L. Even silent film perfectionists loved solid American engineering. Buster Keaton built his career on precision. Every stunt calculated, every gag timed to the millisecond. So when it came time to choose a car, he picked something that matched his meticulous nature. A 1929 Lincoln Model L with custom Dietrich coachwork. Strong, understated, and built to exacting standards. The car appeared in the documentary, a hard act to follow, and it fits Keaton's personality perfectly. No flash, no unnecessary drama, just a serious automobile for a serious artist. The Lincoln Model L was known for its robust construction and smooth V8 engine, reliable transportation for someone who appreciated things that worked correctly every single time. Keaton didn't need his car to be a showpiece. He needed it to start every morning and get him to the studio without fuss. The Lincoln delivered exactly that kind of dependable luxury. It had formal, elegant lines that suggested quiet wealth rather than desperate attention-seeking. Silent-era stars understood the power of understatement. Keaton's Lincoln said everything it needed to without making a sound, even parked. It looked like it had somewhere important to be. Jean Harlow, 1934 Cadillac Fleetwood V, 12-town car. Even her family gifts arrived with 12 cylinders. Jean Harlow was Hollywood's original blonde bombshell. Platinum hair, satin gowns, and a persona built on oversized glamour. Her car choice matched that image perfectly. A 1934 Cadillac Fleetwood V, 12-town car, gifted her mother, but very much part of Harlow's image. Getty Archives captured Harlow with a massive Cadillac, a machine that made luxury look theatrical. The town car body style was formal and dramatic, with a chauffeur's compartment separated from the passenger cabin. This wasn't a car you drove yourself unless you really wanted to. It was designed to be seen in arriving at premieres and restaurants with maximum impact. Cadillac's V12 engine was one of the most powerful and prestigious power plants of the 1930s. It whispered money in every cylinder firing. For Harlow, whose entire career depended on spectacle and sex appeal, the car became another costume. Chrome and steel instead of silk and diamonds. Studio-era Hollywood understood that stars needed to look like stars every moment they were visible. Harlow's Cadillac made sure that even a trip to the market felt like a red carpet arrival. The car was as rare and extravagant as she was. Both burned bright, and neither lasted nearly long enough. Jayne Mansfield, 1959 Cadillac Eldorado Biarritz Pink. Tail fins, attention, and a star who knew exactly how to arrive. Jayne Mansfield didn't do subtle. Her 1959 Cadillac Eldorado Biarritz came in custom pink with tail fins that could slice bread and enough chrome to blind oncoming traffic. This was a rolling publicity machine, and Mansfield drove it like she owned Hollywood Boulevard, which, in a way, she did. Motor Trend Survey of Film Star Cars notes the pink Eldorado Biarritz and its colorful history. The car was pure 1950s excess, the longest Cadillac you could buy, with convertible top, a rocket ship design language, and a color that made every head turn. Mansfield matched the car with pink everything. Pink mansion, pink poodle, heart-shaped pink pool. This wasn't vanity. This was branding. Mansfield understood that in Hollywood, you either got noticed or got forgotten. Her Cadillac made sure she was impossible to ignore. Every drive became a parade. Every parking spot became a photo opportunity. The Eldorado Biarritz was already the most extravagant car Cadillac built. Mansfield took it further, turning transportation into theater. She didn't just drive the car. She performed it, understanding that for some stars, the line between private life and public spectacle didn't exist. Her car was her costume, and the road was her stage. She never missed a cue. Paul Newman, Volvo V8, wagons and Datsun racing ties. Looks like a family wagon, and then it disappears up the road. Paul Newman wasn't interested in image. He was interested in engines, racing, and cars that performed without needing to advertise. While other stars bought Ferraris to be seen, Newman built hot rod Volvo wagons and fell in love with racing prep Datsuns. His daily drivers looked plain, station wagons, boxy sedans, nothing that screamed movie star. Recent reporting reveals Newman's collection of LS-swapped Volvo wagons, family haulers with American V8 engines hidden under the hood. These were sleeper cars, machines that looked like they belonged in suburban driveways but could outrun muscle cars at stoplights. Newman loved the deception, the idea that performance didn't need to announce itself. His connection to Bob Sharp Racing introduced him to Datsuns and the world of grassroots motorsport. Newman didn't just show up for photo ops. He studied racing seriously, competed in real events, and earned respect from professional drivers who didn't care about his Hollywood credentials. This was a man who could have driven anything but chose substance over flash every single time. His cars reflected his values, honest, capable, and completely uninterested in playing Hollywood games. Newman didn't need the car to tell people who he was. He just needed it to go fast when he asked. Performance without pretense. That was Newman's philosophy, on screen and on the road. Audrey Hepburn, compact European runabouts. Her cars are like her style, light, neat, city-friendly. Audrey Hepburn spent much of her later career living in Rome, and her car choices reflected the practical elegance she brought to everything. She favored small European runabouts, compact cars perfect for narrow Italian streets and quick errands. No limousines, no excess, just smart transportation that got her where she needed to go without fuss. Photos from film shoots show Hepburn with various compact European cars, including a Mercedes SL during two for the road. But her real-life choices lean toward even simple machines, city cars that match her understated lifestyle away from cameras. Hepburn's style was legendary precisely because it looked effortless. She wore simple clothes that somehow became iconic. She lived in apartments, not mansions, and she drove cars that made sense for her actual life rather than her Hollywood image. This was a woman who walked away from massive movie star fame to focus on humanitarian work and family. Her cars reflected those priorities, functional, tasteful, and completely disinterested in making statements. She didn't need a car to prove she was Audrey Hepburn. Everyone already knew, in a city where parking is theater and traffic is combat, Hepburn chose practicality over performance. She drove like she dressed, perfectly and without trying. Elvis Presley, 1955 Cadillac Fleetwood 60 Special, Pink Cadillac. The Cadillac that became more than a car. It became a signature. Elvis Presley's 1955 Cadillac Fleetwood 60 Special in pink didn't just define his image, it defined an entire era of American excess and generosity. The car's ownership history is well documented, now displayed at Graceland as a cultural artifact that transcends automotive history. Elvis bought the Cadillac when he was young, broke through to fame and wanted to show his mother he'd made it. He had it painted pink, not for vanity, but because it was different, memorable, and impossible to ignore. The car became a symbol of his rise from poverty to superstardom, from truck driver to king. But the pink Cadillac meant more than success. It represented Elvis's legendary generosity. He famously gave away Cadillacs to friends, family, and sometimes strangers who admired his cars. The pink Fleetwood started that tradition, turning an automobile into a gesture of gratitude and excess that felt uniquely American. The car was big, loud, and unapologetic, like Elvis himself. It had presence without aggression, flash without meanness, and it proved that sometimes the most personal thing you can do with money is share it as loudly as possible. Elvis didn't need the pink Cadillac to be famous, but once he had it, fame looked a whole lot more colorful. Marlon Brando, 1955 Ford Thunderbird. Period photos link Brando with mid-50s American luxury, bold but not fussy. Marlon Brando rewrote the rules for American acting with raw intensity and method techniques. His car choices showed a similar appreciation for American style, without unnecessary decoration. Period photographs and reporting link Brando with a 1955 Ford Thunderbird, often described as a studio gift connected to guys and dolls. The first-generation Thunderbird was Ford's answer to Corvette, but with more luxury and less pretense about being a race car. It had a removable hardtop, comfortable seats, and a V8 engine that delivered power without drama. This was personal luxury for people who wanted to drive, not just pose. Brando's association with the Thunderbird fits his persona, American masculinity with rough grace, capable and confident without needing to prove anything. The car was sophisticated enough for Hollywood, but raw enough for someone who didn't care much about Hollywood's opinion, whether Brando drove it daily or just kept it around for weekend escapes. The Thunderbird matched his energy, both promised power and delivered it quietly, without unnecessary noise. He loved American muscle before it was cool, the way he made method acting standard before everyone else caught up. The car was just one more thing Brando understood early. James Garner, 1966 Shelby GT 350, H. An actor who didn't just act like a racer. James Garner didn't fake his way through driving scenes. He actually drove stunts, racing schools, with time on real tracks. His 1966 Shelby GT 350, H was a working tool, not a garage queen. Motor Trend features explain that Garner used a GT 350 H around Europe during Grand Prix filming, proving his commitment was genuine. The GT 350 H was part of Shelby's Rent-A-Racer program through Hertz, modified Mustangs built for performance driving. These weren't gentle touring cars. They were loud, raw, and built for people who knew how to drive hard. Garner's choice reveals a lot about his priorities. He could have bought any exotic import or luxury cruiser, but he chose an American muscle car modified for actual performance. This was a driver's car for an actor who respected driving as a real skill, not just a movie trick. His work on The Great Escape and Grand Prix required genuine automotive ability. Garner didn't just sit in the car for close-ups while stunt drivers did the real work. He learned to drive competently, even competing in professional racing events later in life. The GT 350 H was a workhorse, not a trophy. That was Garner's whole philosophy. Do the work yourself, learn the skills, earn the credibility. He didn't need to act like he could drive. He actually could. Clint Eastwood, 1972 Ford Gran Torino Sport. Later strongly associated with the Gran Torino through film, Eastwood favored simple, unshowy cars. Clint Eastwood became inseparable from a 1972 Ford Gran Torino Sport after his 2008 film of the same name. The movie made the car iconic, but Eastwood's actual car choices have always leaned toward simplicity and function rather than flash. The Gran Torino represented American muscle at its most straightforward. Fastback styling, V8 power, no European sophistication required. It was California grit wrapped in sheet metal, which matches the Eastwood persona perfectly. Quiet confidence, no unnecessary words. Just get in, start it up, and handle business. Eastwood's career has been defined by understated masculinity. Characters who don't need to prove anything because their competence speaks for itself. The Gran Torino carries that same energy. It's not trying to be exotic or refined. It just does its job well. While the film cemented the car's place in Eastwood's legacy, his real preferences have always run toward practical, reliable vehicles that don't announce themselves. He's never been about spectacle off-screen, favoring privacy and function over Hollywood theater. The Gran Torino became cultural shorthand for Eastwood's particular brand of American toughness, direct, capable, and completely uninterested in anyone's approval. Simple, strong, no frills, the car matched the man exactly. Jack Nicholson, 1967 Volkswagen Beetle convertible. A superstar who still liked an unfussy city car. Before Jack Nicholson became Hollywood royalty, he drove a 1967 Volkswagen Beetle convertible through Los Angeles, chasing acting roles and living the struggling artist's life. Life magazine documented Nicholson with his Beetle in 1969, capturing a moment before megastardom changed everything. The Beetle was the ultimate everyman car, affordable, reliable, and completely without pretense. It got decent mileage, fit into tight parking spots, and cost almost nothing to maintain. For a young actor without steady work, it was perfect transportation. What's remarkable is that even after Nicholson became one of Hollywood's biggest stars, he kept the Beetle. It became a reminder of his early days, a tangible connection to the years when success wasn't guaranteed. The car represented authenticity in an industry built on illusion. Nicholson's career has always included a healthy dose of rebellion and working-class attitude, even as he collected Oscars and multi-million-dollar paychecks. The Beetle embodied that contradiction, a superstar's car that looked like a college student's ride. He didn't need the car to prove his success. He kept it to remember where success started, in a cheap convertible with the top down, driving to auditions and hoping someone would notice. The Beetle saw him before the world did, and that mattered. Sophia Loren, 1957 Mercedes-Benz 300 SL Gullwing. She didn't just pose with a Gullwing. She lived with one. Sophia Loren was one of the few women in 1950s Hollywood to daily drive a genuine supercar. Her 1957 Mercedes-Benz 300 SL Gullwing wasn't a publicity stunt or a studio gift she never touched. Period Italian press and automotive features from sources like HK Engineering connect Loren to a personal 300 SL, including anecdotes from the Rally del Cinema. The Gullwing was exotic even among exotic cars. Those signature upward opening doors, racing-derived engineering, and performance that intimidated most drivers. This was a machine built for the Autobahn and endurance racing, not gentle cruising. Loren's choice to actually drive the 300 SL says everything about her combination of elegance and strength. She didn't need a chauffeur or a softer car. She took the wheel herself, navigating Italian roads in one of the most demanding sports cars of the era. The Gullwing matched her screen presence. Beautiful, powerful, and impossible to ignore. Loren carried herself with the confidence of someone who knew exactly what she was worth, and her car delivered the same message. This wasn't a woman who needed protection or special treatment. She could handle the horsepower. European stardom looked different than American fame, and Loren's 300 SL proved it. She drove like she acted, with passion, skill, and complete command of the machine. Sean Connery, 1964 Aston Martin DB5. When the role ends but the car stays. Sean Connery fell in love with the Aston Martin DB5 while filming James Bond movies, and unlike most actors who return their movie cars when shooting wraps, Connery bought one for himself. Broad Arrow auctions and Motor One coverage confirmed that Connery's estate sold his only personally owned DB5, chassis DB5/1681/R, in 2022. The DB5 became inseparable from Bond's image, but Connery's decision to own one proved the car's appeal went beyond movie magic. It was genuinely beautiful, with hand-built British craftsmanship, a straight-six engine, and design that looked elegant from every angle. Connery's DB5 didn't have machine guns or ejector seats. It was just a properly specified grand touring car, built for covering European roads quickly and comfortably. The actor recognized that the DB5 worked as well in real life as it did on screen. Maybe better, since he didn't need to worry about stunt driving or film budgets. Owning the DB5 allowed Connery to blur the line between actor and character in the most elegant way possible. He wasn't pretending to be sophisticated. He was living it, in a car that represented British luxury and performance at their peak. The role made the car famous. The car made the fantasy real. And Connery got to live somewhere between both, with the top down and the road open ahead. James Dean, 1955 Porsche 550 Spyder, little bastard. He lived for speed and defined everything that came after. James Dean's 1955 Porsche 550 Spyder became more than a car. It became a symbol of rebellion, youth, and the danger that followed both. Dean named it Little Bastard, and the lightweight racing machine matched his intensity perfectly. Chassis 550-0055 was built for competition, stripped down to pure performance with minimal comfort and maximum speed. The 550 Spyder represented everything Dean was chasing: authenticity, adrenaline, and a life lived at full throttle. He didn't want a comfortable cruiser or a status symbol. He wanted a machine that demanded skill and gave nothing back except the rush of corners taken at the absolute limit. Dean's relationship with racing was genuine. He studied it, competed in it, and pushed himself the same way he pushes acting. The Porsche was the perfect tool for that obsession. It weighed barely more than 1,000 pounds and could hit speeds that would terrify most drivers. The car's history is well documented: delivery date, chassis records, and the role it played in creating the James Dean legend. But the story isn't about tragedy. It's about a young actor who refused to live carefully, who wanted to feel alive more than he wanted to feel safe. Speed was his truth. The Porsche was his church. Steve McQueen, 1963 Ferrari 250 GT/L Lusso. Not loud, just perfect, like McQueen's on-screen stillness. Steve McQueen earned the title King of Cool, and his 1963 Ferrari 250 GT/L Lusso proved why. This wasn't the screaming, raw racing Ferrari. This was the Lusso, Italian for luxury, the prettiest GT Ferrari ever built, designed for fast grand touring rather than track domination. Christie's auction records and chassis registries confirm McQueen as the first owner of chassis 4891 GT. The Lusso had Pininfarina bodywork that looked like sculpture, a V12 engine that purred instead of shouted, and enough sophistication to match McQueen's own quiet intensity. McQueen didn't need to prove his car credentials. He raced motorcycles and drove stunt cars himself. The Lusso was his personal choice, beautiful enough to appreciate, fast enough to satisfy, and rare enough that most people never saw one outside magazines. The car matched McQueen's screen persona perfectly. He never wasted energy on unnecessary movement or dialogue. He just existed with complete confidence, knowing that real power doesn't need to announce itself. The Lusso operated the same way: elegant, capable, and utterly self-assured. McQueen drove it the way he acted, with precision, control, and understanding that sometimes the coolest thing you can do is nothing at all. The car wasn't a trophy. It was a tool for living well, which was all McQueen ever wanted. Elizabeth Taylor, 1961 Rolls-Royce Silver Cloud 2 Green Goddess. A movie queen in a custom carriage, painted to match her life. Elizabeth Taylor didn't just own a Rolls-Royce. She owned a Rolls-Royce, a 1961 Silver Cloud 2-drop head coupe custom painted in a unique shade of green that earned it the nickname Green Goddess. This wasn't standard luxury. This was bespoke royalty on wheels. According to Architectural Digest and Specialist Automotive Features, the car's custom color and Rome period provenance made it legendary. Eddie Fisher gifted it to Taylor, and she made it personal, choosing a green that reflected her own taste rather than accepting whatever the dealer had in stock. The Silver Cloud 2 drophead was already one of the most expensive, exclusive cars you could buy. Taylor took it further, commissioning a color that ensured her Rolls looked like no one else's. This was a woman who understood that true luxury meant having exactly what you wanted, not just what everyone else thought was prestigious. Taylor lived large, multiple marriages, spectacular jewelry, headline-grabbing drama. Her Rolls matched that energy, turning a simple drive through Rome into a royal procession. The car became part of her legend, another piece of the Elizabeth Taylor mythology that mixed glamour with genuine personality. She didn't just ride in luxury. She redefined it one custom paint job at a time. The car was hers, unmistakably, the way everything in her life eventually became. Marilyn Monroe, 1956 Ford Thunderbird Raven Black. Top down, a rare private smile, a car she kept for years. Marilyn Monroe's 1956 Ford Thunderbird in Raven Black became one of her most personal possessions. Reuters and Car and Driver covered a Julian's auction that later sold the car, complete with registration documents proving Monroe's ownership. This wasn't a studio prop or a publicity stunt. This was her car, bought for herself, driven for years. The black Thunderbird represented freedom for Monroe. Top down, hair flying, a rare moment when she could just be Norma Jean driving wherever she wanted. The car gave her mobility and privacy in a life where both were constantly threatened by fame's demands. Monroe's public image was all platinum blonde glamour and breathless sexuality. But she chose a black car, sleek, understated, modern. The Thunderbird was personal luxury, not show business theater. It was a car you actually drove rather than one you climbed out of for photographers. She kept the Thunderbird for years, through multiple marriages and career upheavals. It was one of the few constants in a life marked by chaos and reinvention. The car saw the real Marilyn, not the constructed image the world demanded. Her Thunderbird was her escape from the cameras, her ticket to anonymity on four wheels. Even legends needed somewhere private to breathe. Hollywood was built on make-believe, but these cars were real. They carried legends through morning light and midnight drives, long before social media could watch. The steering wheels held their hands. The seats knew their weight. The engines heard their voices when no cameras were around. These weren't just cars. They were freedom machines for people trapped by fame. They were personality tests on four wheels, revealing who chose elegance, who chose power, and who chose not to care what anyone thought. Every choice told a story about image, identity, and what happened when the most watched people in the world closed the car door and drove away from it all. Some of these machines are worth millions now, preserved in collections and museums. Others disappeared decades ago, crushed in junkyards or forgotten in barns. But the stories remain, connecting metal and memory in ways that film alone never could. The golden age of Hollywood gave us icons, but it also gave us something more tangible: a record taste, personality, and the American road written in chrome and horsepower. These stars didn't just pose with cars for publicity shots. They drove them. They loved them. They chose them carefully because for a few hours behind the wheel, they could be themselves instead of the person the studio wanted them to be. Every scratch on the paint, every mile on the odometer, every repair bill from a trusted mechanic. These were the real artifacts of fame. Not the movie posters or the magazine covers, but the machines that knew the person underneath the image. The cameras captured performances, the cars captured truth, and decades later, we're still trying to understand what they were trying to tell us about the price of being legendary. The engines have mostly gone quiet now, but the stories still run.